Welcome everybody to Go Local Live. I'm Josh Fenton, CEO and co-founder. First, let me thank Rebecca Cotto da Silva, who Skyped in from Bolzano, Italy, for our weekly update on what's going on in Europe relative to the coronavirus. And then the rest of our schedule, after we talk with Raymond Two Hawks, is Dr. Michael Fine at 12 noon and Governor Raimondo's press briefing at 1 o'clock. But let's go to Raymond Two Hawks. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Josh. Thank you very much for asking, and very honored to be here on Go Local once again. I always appreciate the opportunity.
So listen, we've known each other a long time, and you have emerged as one of the top community leaders on talking about issues of social equity, race, bringing important issues to the forefront, and you're relentless on these issues. This isn't come in and out of favor with you. Let's talk about where is America and Rhode Island today. It's roughly a month since George Floyd was killed. That's sort of a woke America. Where are we now?
I think we're in a tremendous space to really see some systemic and lasting change, which to me is very encouraging, given, to your point, all of the years that I've been involved in this. You're at certain points in this fight where you're just taking a loss after a loss, and it just seems like people don't care and don't want to hear it. And then you have a very unfortunate incident like what happened with Mr. Floyd, and all of a sudden it snaps people out of the sort of fairy tale world we were all living in, where everything's okay and everything's going well because it doesn't affect me. So I think we're in a space right now where people are realizing, hey, wait a minute, maybe I don't know as much as I thought I did, or maybe things aren't the way that I thought they were. And we have a fantastic group of youth that are leading and being very vocal about what their concerns are and what they see. And I'm seeing more adults be open to the fact that, hey, wait a minute, if our youth are hurting, then that should impact me as an adult. What can I do to support our youth, and what can I do to make a change? So I'm motivated and excited by the space that we're at in the country right now.
Listen, we've seen a tremendous reaction in a month. We've seen at the grassroots level tremendous protest, most of them peaceful, some not. We've seen an awakening, I think, by elected officials. You saw Tuesday a major upset in Congress. A 30-year veteran in the 16th district in New York, Engel, get upset by a middle school teacher from Yonkers, a black man. So you're seeing some real results. How do we make sure that this isn't another movement that doesn't achieve what its potential is? Occupy Wall Street, after the financial meltdowns of 09 and 10, had tremendous opportunity to level the playing field economically. What happened? It only got worse. The rich got richer and the poor got poorer. How do we make sure that we make real change nationally, globally, but most specifically in Rhode Island?
Sure. Well, I think it all starts with each individual making a conscious decision that they want to be a part and want to see change. I think it all starts with everyone as an individual, and then for you to do what you can to make that change happen. I think a lot of times people get overwhelmed because they see everything going on and they're like, well, how can I change everything? But it's not on you to change everything. It's on you to change what you can. And that's why I stay so committed and so consistent, Josh, because I'm like, these things that I'm involved in are things that I can do. I can't change what's going on globally. I can't change what's on Wall Street. I can change what's going on in Mount Hope. I can change what's going on here in Providence, and I can find other people who feel the same way. So if everyone starts with making a personal commitment to first understanding what's going on and then doing what they can to bring about the change that we're all looking to see, to me, that's how you make sure it's lasting. And I will say this, Occupy might not have achieved what it set out to, but it definitely opened people's eyes up that change needed to happen. And particularly here in Rhode Island, and particularly here in Providence, the community here is just so fantastic that they've just kept the ball rolling on everything. It never stopped when Occupy, not that it wasn't going before Occupy got here, but once Occupy ended, the energy kept going, the people stayed committed. And I think that that's why you see such a level of awareness and commitment here in Providence and in Rhode Island in particular. Those have all been a part of ongoing work, and I really have to take my hat off and salute the social justice community here in the state. To me, they're second to none anywhere.
Let's go to education. Providence schools have been terrible for 40 or 50 years. Terrible, terrible. It didn't take anybody who went to Providence Schools to know that they were terrible. It took the rest of the state to understand only after Johns Hopkins came in and did a report and rated Providence Schools amongst the worst in the country. So think about Appalachia, Mississippi, rural Alaska, upstate Maine. This is the class of education level that Providence Schools are. The reinvention of the Providence Schools functionally got delayed a year. We now have some semblance of a plan, but we don't see tremendous energy that we did last June. How do we make sure that a kid born in Providence, that grows up in Providence, has the same opportunity for a quality education as a child who grows up 10 minutes away in Barrington, Rhode Island?
Sure. I think a lot of that comes down to reimagining the system and valuing the youth that are there. So many times, you know, before the Johns Hopkins report, I mean, you would see me in the GoLocal comment sections, Josh, just going back and forth with people, blaming youth in Providence. You know, they don't have any respect, they don't value. And then this report comes out and it's like, no, these are one of the worst school systems in the US. So what do you expect students coming out of that to actually do? Like, if you're not prepared to be successful, why would you be surprised when that individual's not successful? So I think that it takes, once again, for everyone to be open to the idea that what you think you know right now might be completely incorrect. To go with your logic, do you think that humanity in general seeks out to be unsuccessful, seeks out to be violent towards each other, seeks out to live in poverty? If that doesn't make logical sense to you, then explore the potential that maybe there's something else going on. And if we start there, there's the energy and there's the motivation, because all of us should want all of our youth, no matter where they're at, to be successful, to be actively engaged in their community, to be making something positive happen. Because I'm getting grays in my beard, Josh. You know, I'm going to get to the point where I can't yell and scream like I used to. Just physically, I can't do it. Who's the one who keeps that energy going? Who's the one who continues to fight for a better day if it's not our youth? And if it's not our youth that we're preparing, then what did I do all this for? So that's my thing. If everyone takes ownership personally that every youth in this city is going to be successful and going to have a positive outcome and a positive future, then we start to see that energy not only reinstigated, but also maintained as we go through whatever changes we're going through with the Providence school system.
We took a look at when the Hopkins report and was unveiled and showed how bad Providence schools were. We looked at the test results of other school systems in Rhode Island in the urban corridor, Pawtucket, Central Falls, Woonsocket, West Warwick. Those schools are equally as bad according to test results. There's just a have and a have-not in this system.
Absolutely.
That has to be a focus, right? We're never going to break this cycle. You have a much better chance if you go to Roger Williams Middle School of going to prison than you have any chance of going to college.
Absolutely, and it all comes down to resources and supports. When I was at Mount Hope, I used to hate when they would tell us, well, you just have to do more with less. I'd be like, I'm not doing more with less. You can't do more with less. That's absurd. And I think that Abu Bakr, he gave me this concept that I really tried to apply, because you always hear people talk about, oh, we're committed, we're committed, we're committed. That sounds good, but where's the demonstrated commitment? Where's when you actually put the money where your mouth is? Where's when you actually give up some of what you have to help someone else have something better? So when I don't see that, when I just hear the conversation going on, I'm like, okay, they're not really with it. It just sounds good. It's a nice soundbite. It's something that you can spin off to your supporters or investors to talk about all the fantastic plans you have. And there's been so much of that going on since I was a young man running track, Josh. But at the same token, a lot of the issues that they spoke about in Johns Hopkins were issues that I was dealing with 20, 30 years ago.
Oh,
so
absolutely, yeah.
Where has been the demonstrated commitment? Where has been the actual resources that are in it? And I'm not knocking the fact that lots of money have gone into Providence schools, but that takes me back to my original point. We need to rethink the system and how we're actually engaging. So there's multiple factors that's going on. I think that anyone who's looking for just the one silver bullet, you're doing yourself and these youth a disservice. And we really need to look comprehensively at what it's going to take to get our youth on track. Because if we do the one strategy and we're done sort of thing, we'll be back here in 30 years from now having the same discussion again.
Yeah, absolutely. As you know, we try to treat everybody with great respect when they come on GoLocal Live. I'm probably the biggest violator. I had Neil Steinberg on from the Rhode Island Foundation one day after the RICAS scores came out. This is before the Hopkins report. And he said, listen, we're committed to changing the Providence schools, but this isn't going to be fixed overnight. And I said, you know what, Neil, I remember the last time I heard that. I heard it in 1991 when I got elected to the Providence City Council and started raising questions and was told that it wouldn't happen overnight. And that was correct. It didn't happen overnight. It got worse every night. Providence schools got worse every night. And I'll also say this, the schools are worse 1 year later than they were when that Hopkins report that came out literally today, 1 year ago today, right? The schools are worse. We had abandoned the classrooms. There's been no substantive reform. It's been a bunch of legal machinations to be able to move the control of the school system over to the state, but really nothing else of purpose. Let's go to another issue. You're a law student. Today in the Rhode Island Supreme Court, there's the first vacancy in 10 years. Since 1663, when the first court system functionally was established in Rhode Island, there's never been a person of color named to the Supreme Court. It could be another 10 years before the next vacancy comes open. Is this the time to name a person of color or a black man or woman to the court?
Sure. I think absolutely. And as I've learned more about the law, I've learned just how important it is to have people in there with certain experiences and perspectives. Because at that level of law, when you're just looking at what's written down and what everyone has agreed to and what the precedent has been up until this point, if there's not someone there to kind of have a perspective of, hey, wait a minute, that's impacted this community like this, or that's had this result that you may not know about, it never gets addressed. And then the people at the bottom who are just subject to the law are still struggling with the same things because systemically, this is what it is. So I think that this is the right time for that. Not that there ever is really a right time. Every time's the right time to do the right thing. But I think right now, given the atmosphere, given the level of professionalism amongst communities of color, given the fact that there's all sorts of things going on talking about the history of Rhode Island, its relationship with slavery and colonization, to think that there's never been a person of color, never been a black person, never been an American Indian on the Supreme Court here in Rhode Island, that speaks to a lot of the reason why things are the way they are here in the state. The highest level of law in the state is still functioning the same way it functioned when Roger Williams was here. So why would we be expecting things to be different if we haven't even changed that top level that really sets the sort of stage for how the rest of the state conducts itself from a law perspective? And if we're looking to address things like law enforcement accountability, if we're looking to address things like systemic racism and inequality, if we're looking to address any of those elements, it always starts with the law, and in most cases ends with the law, whether that be through legislation, whether that be through decision making that takes place from judges that have the power to do that. The law is in and foundational to everything. So absolutely, I think that this is the perfect time to be looking at being very proactive and intentional about putting someone on that Supreme Court that's going to have a diverse view from everyone else that's been on there and be able to bring into that some understanding of how these laws that are in place impact communities and feed into what we see going on in the state today.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I take firm objections to people when we've raised this issue editorially and said, well, it shouldn't be anyone based on the color, it should be based on the best person for the job. Well, guess what? The best person for the job doesn't always get the job. And this is no disrespect to any member of the judiciary, but we all know how people get on the judiciary in Rhode Island. They've either been an elected official, they're a friend of a politician. This is not a court system full of ex-Harvard law professors. It's just not. And so let's take a look at a broader perspective of what's important in having the best possible court system that represents and gives confidence to everybody in the state of Rhode Island that they're in there and getting a fair chance. If they only see white faces in every single position, I don't think you can have confidence that you as a person of color is getting the fair chance, equal chances as everyone else. Let me go to one other issue. We're going to call you up a year from now, and we're going to have you back right on this day, or maybe the 25th of June, because I think the 26th will be a Saturday. So we'll have you back on the 25th, 2021. What will we have accomplished?
What will we have accomplished? Well, we'll have taken the term plantations out of the state name. We'll be looking at our first year of successful education in Providence Public Schools with some new strategies, hopefully with no school resource officers in there. Nothing against any of the individuals I know who serve in those positions and try to do the best that they can, but we really shouldn't have police officers in our schools. It's not something that I think from the psyche of a student makes you feel comfortable if you're walking around the school and you have more police officers than you do guidance counselors. So we'll be seeing that. I think that we will have seen some very, very, if they want to call it revolutionary or radical changes in terms of how we're policing our community. There's a lot of talk right now about defunding police, and where funding that goes to police could go into other areas, particularly so that police officers aren't having to take on the roles of mental health professionals and things of that nature, which really a police officer shouldn't be doing in the first place. So I would say in a year from now, when we come back to talk, we're talking about the systemic change that's been going on here, and also exploring the great job that the first person of color, potentially Black or American Indian, judge on the Supreme Court of Rhode Island, what a great job they're doing in their first year of service to the community.
Raymond Two Hawks, I want to thank you as always. It's probably we got to get you one of those jackets like the host of Saturday Night Live.
Hey, send it over, brother.
You're up there with like Tom Hanks or somebody who's a regular host, regular guest. I want to thank you as always. One of my favorites. Thank you for taking the time. For everybody else, please stay safe. Stay tuned for Dr. Fine at 12, Governor Raimondo's press conference at 1 o'clock. Thanks, everyone.